Hey, this week we're talking about money in open source. We're talking about ARM virtual machines and wine. They try to talk me into buying something else that I really don't need. We talk about audio editors, the kernel, and more. You don't want to miss it, so stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is the Untitled Linux Show, episode 168, recorded Saturday, September 7th. He pulled a Rob. Hey folks, it is Saturday, and you very well know what that means. It's time to get geeky. It's time to talk about Linux and open source. It's the Untitled Linux Show. I'm your host, Jonathan Bennett, and of course, we've got the panel, the guys. As we say, we have the OG panel today. Rob and Ken and Jeff. We're gonna have fun. We've already had fun. And but gonna have some more now that the show has really started.
With OG, shouldn't you have started with me?
Actually, I'm pretty sure that's Rob. Rob was the guy that went and bugged Leo. It's like, hey, you're gonna do a Linux show now, right? So
Rob is zero. I was there.
Rob is sort of the OG, but although Ken has been programming for Unix computers before Rob or me or Jeff were ever around, I think. So maybe Ken's the OG. Anyway, we're going to talk about money and open source, and we're going to let Rob do it.
Yeah, we'll fight about this. We'll fight about the OGs later. So this is going to be a little bit of follow-up last week when you were talking about KDE needing donations. And the thing is, many people use Linux and open source because it's free. But there are different kinds of free. When the purists talk about free, they mean free as in freedom. Freedom to use the software as you like with, full access, open access to the code and everything. Those not deep in the community often only think about the money aspects of free. They just love the fact that they don't have to spend any money for the software they're using. And although it's all good and it helps spread the software, helps spread software equality for those who can't, really afford to pay for it. But nothing is free. If you really aren't paying for it, then somebody else is. And often they're just paying for it with their hard work and their time. And this week, there are a few examples where things aren't really that great financially. One story in the news this week involves KDE. As they announced the availability of their annual report for 2023, we see their total revenue for the year is just a little more than 349,000 euros, while their expenses totaled just over 457,000 euros. And that is a loss of almost 108,000 euros. And then you go back a little further into 2022, their loss was about 99,000 euros. And so those 2 years alone, that's approximately around 250,000 euros of a loss. Now, in 2021, they did show a profit almost 20,000 euros, which isn't even close to cover the losses of the past years. So, it sounds like they've been lucky enough to have some cash reserves. And being a nonprofit, I guess they kind of actually have to spend that down. So maybe that's not as bad as initially it sounds, because they had some money from early donations that they really shouldn't be holding on to that long, because it's a nonprofit. But still, at least if the trend continues, trending red isn't good, and maybe now that they've gotten KDE 6 out, they could take a step back and, save a little money, be back in the black again for a couple of years. Also, the news of Alejandro Colomar, who has been maintaining the Linux man pages for the last 4 years, has announced that he will have to stop that work. He's been a maintainer in his free time and states he cannot sustain this work economically anymore. And so therefore he is temporarily and indefinitely stopping work on the project. So all that free software you're using is costing some people a lot. And sometimes it's just too much, at least much more than they can afford, from their own personal perspectives. In one example, KDE, their income is 75% donations and patrons. I think as roughly 25% is a little more, maybe 24% patrons, 51% other donations. So if you can afford it, donate to your favorite projects and help out where you can. And if you want to support me, you could donate me a coffee too. It's available on my website right down here.
I'm
nice,
curious.
Nice plug.
Is there any hint of the Mozilla issue where you have the head of the organization making a very large amount of money, or is it everybody kind of seem like it's pretty reasonable? And
well, the expenses breakdown for KDE seemed pretty reasonable. There is a pie graph if you dig into the link there, what all of their expenditures and all their income was.
I was just curious. I saw most of it was personnel and contractors, but I know in the past we've talked about Mozilla where the head is getting, I want to say like $1 million or something like that, or it's a monstrous amount. And I just wanted curious if anybody's
monstrous amount for a monstrous head.
I guess it probably looks like it's about 70% of it is staff and contractors. But I guess it says right up here, personnel, that's like 317,000
isn't labor
euros.
Usually at least half of all your total expense on a contract?
It depends on what you're doing. For software, a lot of times it's even more than that.
Right.
I wondered that too. Like, is there somebody at the head that is making the most of that? But their personal expense for the year was only 300,000 euro, which that's not
a lot of salary.
No, like that would be a low salary for a CEO, and they are paying several programmers out of that. So no, I don't think there's anyone raking in €1 million a year.
300,000 euro is probably. I can't remember how that compares to the U.S.
Probably just covering the cost of the secretaries.
That's so like in U.S. dollars, that's like 3 to 4, maybe 5 well-paid software guys. Now, apparently, they do not pay developers quite as much in Europe as they do here. But that is not the equivalent of very many people working full time.
Yeah, the euro to the U.S. dollar, it's fairly close. 300,000 euro is 332,000 US dollars. So it's ballpark. You can pretty much think about it as US dollars and be pretty close.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're running a pretty tight ship then.
They really do seem to be.
I bet a lot of people are on there. Like it's probably part-time, okay, we're going to pay you to code 10 hours a week or something.
Yeah. Which, I mean, so for a lot of people that are doing stuff like this, we've got other gigs where we're making some money. And you have to juggle the gigs to be able to have enough to cover your expenses. And so you go to your open source project sometimes and say, hey, I would love to be able to put in this many hours a week, but to be able to do that and still be able to eat and pay my rent, I've got to have some money to do it. And I think it's great that there are some of these open source projects that can do this. As I looked through this, there was one other thing that I saw that really interested me, and that is that they make sure and mention that they hit their predict for the 2023 report. Now this is 6 months old at this point. No, 9 months old at this point. But they hit their expected both income and expenses within like 500 euro.
That's good budgeting.
Yeah. So like this
really
is
good.
This is so this is not like unexpected, and from what I can tell, this is not even we need to panic. It's not like they're hemorrhaging. Now, obviously, that was a lot of money to expend in a year, but it's not like they're hemorrhaging cash uncontrollably. So it sounds like it's very much like what Rob was getting at, that they had some reserves and just maybe strategically decided to spend them.
And fortunately, this wasn't the only year that covered funding trying to get the Plasma 6 out.
Yeah, that's probably fair. There was a big Plasma 6 push that was a part of this, so it may be that they brought some people on for more hourly and to get that out the door.
But still, with expenditures for a company, however size this is, less than $500,000 in a year. If you donate, just think of how great KDE could be.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ken, let's talk for a minute about another source of funding that some open source projects turn to.
Well, be more than happy to talk about what Bobby Borisov wrote about this week. He wrote about the Sovereign Tech Fund, or STF as we called it recently, once again being one of open source's great friends and supporters. The STF is a funding pot supported financially by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action, and hosted by the German Federal Agency for, wait for it, Disruptive Innovation. Now, in the past, they provided €1 million in financial support for, Rob, I've got to say it this way, GNOME.
Oh, that's the way I say it. Good job. Good job, buddy.
Good job.
They also invested €203,000 in GStreamer. And one I'm glad to see they funded is, with €157,000, is FFmpeg.
I think the G is silent in GStreamer. It's just called Streamer.
Ah!
Now, the STF is now making another impressive donation to the open source ecosystem. It's to the FreeBSD Foundation, and has announced a €686,400 investment from STF to enhance the FreeBSD operating system's infrastructure and security. According to Bobby, the foundation, which has been at the helm of supporting and advancing the FreeBSD operating system, will manage the investment. Scheduled to commence this August, so it's already started actually, and extend through 2025, the initiative will focus on several critical areas. The first is called Zero Trust Builds. This basically means upgrading tooling and processes to bolster security. The other one's continuous integration and continuous delivery automation. In other words, streamlining software delivery and operations to enhance efficiency. Wow, I'm tripping over all these E's today. Reducing technical debt. Bobby says that is basically introducing tools to maintain low technical debt. I guess that's what KDE did this past year.
Mm-hmm.
And then security controls. Again, updating and broadening security frameworks to aid regulatory compliance. And we like SBOMs, so they're going to enhance that by improving tools and processes relating to the software bill of materials. That's our SBOMs. Now, this investment aims to enrich the developer experience, making it world-class, and bolster FreeBSD's reputation for security and digital sovereignty. Aligning with global security trends, this initiative follows closely on the heels of the U.S. Office of the National Cyber Director's report earlier this month, highlighting the importance of securing the open source software ecosystem. By enhancing FreeBSD security controls and SBOM tooling, the foundation is ensuring that FreeBSD remains a leader in secure software practices and vulnerabilities disclosure mechanisms. Fiona, and I do apologize if I mispronounce this last name, Krakenberger, co-founder of the Sovereign Tech Fund, expressed enthusiasm about the partnership. She said, and I'm going to be quoting here, "This investment in critical digital infrastructure will accelerate the modernization of FreeBSD, enhance security hygiene, and improve developer experiences." Now, Bobby's article has several links if you want more information about the Free BSD Foundation's announcement and the STF's other investments.
Yeah, FreeBSD gets used in a lot of places that is, not necessarily in your face like where Linux is in some places, but it's fairly important. The BSDs, they're still out there chugging away at places like Netflix or yeah. What's the router distro that's running BSD?
Is it made by Cisco or
OpenSense or what? I can't remember the name of it.
OpenSense and pfSense.
Yeah. I mean, those are based on BSD. So, neat stuff here. I can imagine the SBOM thing is really becoming a big deal because there is now some legislation in different parts of the world requiring businesses to have SBOMs, and that's a real pain to do if you don't have support for it in your OS. So, cool stuff here.
Sometimes that can lead to F-bombs.
I think it's intending to prevent them, but yes, indeed. Wow. All right, neat to see that. Let's talk about 611. There's something really cool that we have been looking for, in my little corner of the world. There's a particular chip, a USB chip that you can hang SPI devices off of. And this whole time we've been looking for, because it'll let us do things with Meshtastic. And this whole time we've been looking for it, and it's like, we just can't wait for this to land. And it finally landed, and we went and looked at it, and it's like, and they didn't turn on the GPIO support, so we can't actually use it anyways. Very sad. So 611 is one of those kind of moments for us. But what else is going on with 611, Jeff?
Well, I figured, let's not talk about money. Let's talk about the kernel. Get right to the heart of Linux. Mm-hmm. And I'm starting off with this week with information about the 611 kernel, and I have a trio of stories, none of which were long enough to make into a full segment, so I bundled some of the smaller ones together. The first link in the show notes is about 611.RC6 being released, and it was released a little early because Linus was going to be traveling, so he decided to let it go a day early, so he didn't want to have to do it while traveling. Something interesting in this RC is that while normally drivers make up the largest section of the updates, this time there's also a large number of file system fixes, specifically SMB, XFS, Bcachefs, and NetFS. All got some love. The fixes are nothing terribly huge, but they address things like inode handling, file trimming, and data consistency. I'm not going to read the specific ones because they read like stereo instructions, such as, and I'm quoting here, fix failure to return error in function data_update_index_update and revert lockless buffered IO path. So if you really want to know what went on in there, the link in the show notes has the official release, and you can get all the details for all that stuff. The bulk of the updates, though, even with the larger than normal file system updates, drivers are still the bulk of the update and cover things like PCIe configuration, network updates, and of course, sound and graphics updates. Now, if you're new to Linux, RC releases don't add huge new features, but bug fixes in the new and existing features that were added or included in the first release candidate. So when a new release candidate kernel is opened up to the public, many early testers can jump on the kernel and test a larger configuration of hardware than the maintainers have access to. So those corner case bugs come out. They keep giving release candidates until Linus says it's good enough, and then the cycle starts over. So hire kernel rev with a new release candidate 1 after 611 is out. So then we'll have a 612. Now, since 611 is out, the maintainers are actually working on 611.RC7, which ties into our second story in the show notes. And in release candidate 7, which isn't out, but it's getting worked on, there's a fix for the massive performance regression in the AMD GPU graphics driver. AMD's Alex Dusher, sorry, apologies on that, said this adds allocation latency, but aligns better with user expectations. The latency should improve with the DRM buddy clearing patches that A-Run has been working on. In addition, this fixes the high CPU spikes seen when doing wipe on release. Now, the regression was introduced 4 months ago when they added the clear page functionality to the AMD GPU driver. Some are also seeing this issue in GIMP, so it's not only gaming, anything loading up the graphics card. If you are running AMD graphics and running the AMD GPU driver, you'll want to roll back to an older kernel and or wait for the 6.11 kernel to be fully released, which should be mid-September if things keep on track.
Or now grab master and compile it yourself, you know, if you're real adventurous.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're that adventurous, you probably already know that. But the last story linked in the show notes is about OpenZFS, and it's released with its support for kernel 4.18 up to including 6.11 when it's officially released. Maybe. So kernel 6.10 is fully supported, and there are patches to help it work with 6.11, but that might not be 100% because it's an RC, so things are not fully stable. But they're trying their best to make it work with 6.11. There might be some tweaking they have to do depending on if anything major takes a left turn. We're going to have to see, you know, when the 6.11 kernel is fully released. Just know that if you have a testing system and love OpenZFS, you can run the latest file system with the latest kernel and help find any issues in the compatibility. This latest version has several bug fixes, and if you want the full details or a link to the changes in GitHub in the story, you know, linked in the show notes. It was a lot of small little bug fixes. Nothing groundbreaking was added, but you know, depending on what you need, but nothing major. It was kind of cleanup and stuff. So I encourage everyone to take a look at the show notes and follow the links to the articles and get all the details that I wasn't able to cover in this segment because, you know, it's not just a show about me.
And while it is a Linux show, it is also not a show about covering every change in the Linux kernel. That would be a much more narrow field of view than we take. So, you know,
and a very long,
that's true,
an archaic sounding show.
Yep.
You know,
a daily show too, wouldn't it?
You could.
I noticed how you said RCs are not totally stable. My initials are RC, and I think I'm pretty stable.
Pattern holds.
I was in pattern holds. Yeah.
You walked right into that one, Rob. Tied a bow on it and everything.
Now, here's a challenge for our listeners. Depending on how unstable you think Rob Campbell is, you need to get on the Discord and give us a number. Is he an RC1 or maybe is he towards the RC7 or 8 end of the spectrum?
And for each RC you think I am, donate one coffee. That's one coffee for an RC1, 7 for an RC7.
Oh,
you know that RC1's the most unstable.
Whatever.
Yes. He kind of bet against himself there, didn't he?
I don't care. One coffee, whatever.
Yeah. So speaking of the kernel, I did find one of the stories that I wanted to talk about, and that is Michael Larow has a story about the preempt RT in the kernel. The real-time kernel is getting closer and closer, and they are looking at pushing that into the 6.12 once 6.12 opens up. And so with it may not all land for 6.12. It might be 6.13, but
Definitely
it's
6.14.
There's no definitely here. The process of working with the kernel is much too human and messy for any definitelys.
Well, we talked about this a while back, and it was, I mean, they've been working on this for like 10 years.
Yeah, long time.
Very long
time.
So they're
getting close there. Is still relative. No, it's about ready to hit soonish.
Yeah, possibly
Someday.
6.12, probably by 6.13, which will be real interesting to play with for various things. But yeah, it looks like it's getting closer.
Probably good odds it'll hit this calendar year. Not guaranteed, but
soonish, eventually, sometime.
Yeah, I would say either this calendar year or first quarter of next. It depends upon how long they take with everything, because if you've got a couple of kernels where the RC goes all the way to 8, then, that's like 2 months per kernel, and we're already in September. So it's going to be, if it's 6.13, it's going to be kind of on the edge whether that gets out in this year or early next year.
If they don't get it done this year, you have a New Year's prediction.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. That might be an easy win.
Meatball over the plate.
Yeah.
Predict that it'll be there by kernel 8.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Rob, you're going to make my wife ticked, and you're going to try to talk me into buying something again. I just know.
Yes.
I'm going to hear about this, man.
It is time for Jonathan to get out his wallet as the new furry phone, or maybe it's the fur iPhone. I don't know. The furry phone.
Neither of them sound great.
Furry phone, F-U-R-I, furry phone, FLX1 is here and available for $499 US. From their Buy It Now page, first, it says fast, performant, and cheap. You wanted all three? Now you got it. The FLX1 from Furry Labs runs a fully optimized system called Furry OS, packing a lightning-fast user interface, tons of storage, and a privacy-centric approach like no other. Furry OS is an operating system based on Debian, designed and oriented for mobile use without any artificial limitations. The phone looks like an actual premium phone. For those watching, you can kind of get a little view of this beautiful looking thing. So it looks like an actual premium phone, and it supports 4G and 5G and is even able to run Android apps through the use of Waydroid integrated into the OS. The hardware of the phone itself comes with 6 gigabytes of memory, 128 gigabytes of universal flash storage 2.1. The CPU has 2x Cortex A78s at 2.4 gigahertz and 6 Cortex A55 at 2 gigahertz. The GPU is a Mali G68 MC4, whatever that is. Has a front camera, 16 megapixels, a back camera with 50 megapixels with optical image stabilization, and then a macro camera with 2 megapixels. Charging is wired and wireless and NFC combo. The battery type is lithium ion or LiPo removable battery. Battery capacity is 5,000 milliamps. USB Type-C 3.0 waterproof. Dual SIM slots, Wi-Fi 6, and unlike those other premium phones today, it even comes with a 3.5 millimeter waterproof headphone jack. They just don't have the courage to get rid of yet.
Sweet.
So the talk on Reddit makes it sound like it's probably one of the best Linux phones yet. And some people are quite optimistic that mobile Linux is kind of soon going to be ready for prime time. There's some debate. Some guys like some people are like, within the next few months, it's going to be there because it's almost there with this, they said. And others like, it'll be a decade. But so we'll see. It looks pretty nice. So, and not a bad price for what mobile phones go for these days.
Yeah. Now, is this actually running Linux rather than Android?
Yes, it is a Debian-based OS.
It would have to be Debian. At least it's not Arch, right?
You probably it's got USB, so it probably isn't too hard to install something else if you wanted.
Yeah, it's interesting. Most of the big distros have like a mobile centric spin. Like Fedora's got a couple. I know there are various Debian and Ubuntu touch spins that are in theory designed to work on a phone. It's good luck finding one where it actually works and it's usable. So, I mean, this is interesting in that.
Yeah, and they make it sound like Android stuff is seamless in a sandbox because that's just how Waydroid works. But I don't know. I'd love to try it.
Now,
I tell you what, I'm kind of...
Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm kind of interested in this. One, it's got a Debian distribution, so... Okay, I'm pretty comfortable there. It's got the jack. Love that because I have uses for it. And one of the things they said, it's going to get supported a long time. So I looked and I'm like, removable battery. Because that's a lot of times where I wind up trading out my phones because the battery life is dead. And certain phones, like I had a Google Pixel 1, you basically had to destroy the phone almost to swap out the battery. there was parts that they said theoretically you could take it apart, but you're going to wind up breaking, you know, X, Y, Z, and with the cost of parts, just you're better off getting a new phone. And it's like, oh, I could get security. I could keep a phone for a long time. I'm not a power user, so just the simple apps I'd run, it probably work pretty well.
Yeah, some of the caveats about it is, I mean, you can get apps with F-Droid, but if you need any apps that utilize Google services, obviously you're not going to get Google services.
Yeah, they can't get the Play services on it because it's not actually an Android device.
Right.
There are some workarounds for that, but yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah, I wonder with Waydroid I think that'd be a little harder than running something like Lineage, for example.
Yeah.
Now, how much is it? Because I looked at the website and I'm not seeing any price.
Well, you have to click on the buy. It was $499,
which is not terrible for a phone. It's really not.
You can drop $1,000 these days.
And still not quite be there if you want really one of the really expensive ones.
It has 550 crossed out, so I don't know if that price is ever going to go up or if that's just the always on sale kind of marketing gimmick that places do.
Yes, unfortunately popular these days. You guys are missing out on the major disadvantage of this phone. I hate to be the one to have to say it, but when you pull it out and somebody asks you, "Oh, what kind of phone is that?"
Flex One.
It's the Flex One. Oh, who makes it?
It's the Fur iPhone.
It's not a whole lot better.
The furry phone. Yeah, that
Furry Labs.
It's
so there's a group of people out there that all in on this. And they apparently are in tech and have lots of money to spend, so maybe it'll be a winner. We'll see.
Yeah, it's maybe a little unfortunate in some ways, but maybe that was planned.
Playing the long game. Oh, all right. So let's go back to a piece of software that we've covered a few times and has had some controversy a few times, but it sounds like they are past the controversy and still kicking. Ken, what's up with Audacity?
Well, again, we can thank Bobby Borisov and also Marius Nestor. They both wrote about the latest Audacity release, 3.6.2. This is the second patch release of Audacity 3.6. It fixes at least 20 bugs and adds a new legacy effects section containing the old limiter, compressor, and classic filters. It also moves the time track range to a single dialogue and reverts the behavior of selection change when importing an audio clip to the previous behavior. In other words, instead of automatically selecting what you just imported, it leaves it on whatever you had selected previously. This means you don't have to worry about Audacity auto-selecting the imported audio and losing what you had previously selected. Audacity 3.6.2 addresses many issues like the disappearing pitch indicator on Linux when hitting double digits, missing zero line, a hang after undoing, envelope appearance for clips offset from zero, and broken track header user interface when resizing channels in a stereo track. It also addresses more severe issues such as crashes after recording long sessions and loading cloud projects, and a bug that caused the software to use excessive CPU resources when minimized. Audio engineers working with multi-channel formats will appreciate the fixes for porting OGG and WavePack files. Bobby and Marius also include links to the latest changelog and the official website's download page. You will find links to their articles in our show notes.
It seems to me that the new owners of Audacity have recovered from their near catastrophe and are pushing out good releases again. For those that don't get the joke, Audacity got purchased probably about a year ago now, something like that.
Seems like a
little
couple
over
now.
a year, I think.
Yeah, it could be over a year. Anyway, and one of the first things that the new owners did is say, hey, we're going to put in telemetry. And then we're going to make it really hard to opt out of. And the community just lost it. And they very quickly, in their wisdom, say, well, okay, let's not do that. Let's do something else. It's not that. Anything but that. But they have, it seems, figured things out. And it's very cool to see Audacity still kicking around. And I've heard it described as the notepad of audio editors. Like it's not a big fancy multi-track recorder. It's not a big fancy it's not like an Ardor or something. But if you just need to go in and make a little tweak, then it's there. And it's true. It's really good at doing that.
And I want to say they still have telemetry, but it's now opt-in.
Yes. Yeah. So what they did is they went in and they added the telemetry they wanted to add, but they added it with everything being completely opt-in. And they then also tightened up like their privacy policy and, the things around it. Basically, all the things that people looked at and said, that's not okay. They tightened it all up and fixed it. And, it's actually quite a bit better now.
It's good to use now. And it really is. It's really simple and it's nice for your basic audio needs.
It's a great tool for ripping vinyl.
Yeah, that sort of thing is really good at. There's a couple of things that Audacity has done that like other editors have trouble with. Like Audacity has a remove silence function that's just really, really good and it's fast. And some of the other ones, yes, they'll have remove silence functions, but either it doesn't work very well or when you try to edit afterwards, it slows everything down really badly. It's what I found with Ardor.
So if Audacity is just like the notepad or the Windows Movie Maker of editors, what's a good high-end audio editor
for open source? It's Ardor.
Yeah.
Ardor is the answer there. Yeah,
and that's more than just recording. You could do. I've never even used Ardor, but you could do the tracks and
it is absolutely a multi-track
effects and
wicked powerful.
And in
I've used it a little.
LMM.
There's some other ones out there, but Audacity and Ardor really are the two leading ones, and you have Audacity being the very simple one, and simple is maybe not quite the right way to put it because it is actually fairly powerful in the sort of things that it does, but it's not like a what's the term they use, non-destructive. Audacity historically has not been like a multi-track non-destructive editor, whereas Ardor is very much that, and with Ardor basically was the place to use Jack, the Jack Audio Connection Kit. And so Ardor is all about, it gives you a mixer and other various parts of studio equipment virtually. And so like you can route audio in and out and around and through filters and through effects and then back out through real hardware even. Like, so I've run Ardor as part of the front of house sound loop for an auditorium before. Just crazy stuff like that you can do. Yeah, it's super powerful.
And I think really, if you want a better analogy, I would say almost it's like WordPad versus Word. You can do a lot in WordPad, but if you start going, well, I need auto indexing with auto footnotes and cross-linking and revision control, and okay, now you have to step up to Word and have something more powerful. But who of us needs more than probably what WordPad has? Not many. A lot of it can just be done simply there. So I mean, Audacity, you just like, I just need to make some recordings, I want to do some simple stuff. If you're really going, I got to mix these tracks, I got to put these sound effects, I got to fade in, I got to do all this complicated stuff. Okay, now you're into Ardor and you need, you're really into what you're doing.
I mean, I know you can do fade in and stuff like that with Audacity. That's a pretty basic thing, but
and you
with multiple tracks and layering and just
with Audacity, don't you have to say, okay, add a fade in here, here's the amount, and then it does the calculation and now the audio is faded?
Yeah, I think that's about how it works.
You can do fade ins and fade outs.
Whereas like in Ardor, you'll have just you can grab, I think you grab the top corner of the audio track and you can just drag it back and forth and it'll automatically give you a fade. And then I think you can also right click in there and tell it like, here's the curve of the fade I want you to do. But in Ardor, you can also, and if you don't want to do the simple fade, you could go in and say, okay, give me the envelope editor. And then you can draw your own curve in audio. Or you can pull a plugin in that gives you a compressor, and you can do like an envelope curve for one of the compressor control. Like, it just, the sky is the limit on what you want to do with Ardor. It's ridiculously powerful. Let's
Rob,
talk.
you're running about a release candidate 3 right now. Come on, buddy, step it up.
Let's talk about Ubuntu. And I do not know what's going on here. This seems like a contradiction. If we have a critical problem, you would think we would want to update it. Jeff, what is going on?
So last week, Ken talked about how 24.04, the 0.1 release, it was now available. And some of you might have been even going to update and then wondered why you were not seeing it. Well, that's because if you're on 22.04 LTS and you are going to upgrade to 24.04.1, they've been put on pause because of a critical bug. So some people did update and things didn't go so well, and Canonical wanted to make sure everyone had a smooth upgrade. So while they fixed the issue, they put the brakes on things. In Canonical's own words, due to a critical bug in Ubuntu release upgrader in the way it's using the apt solver. So basically there's a conflict in there. If you're running a different version than 2204, you should still have the green light to upgrade, and there isn't anything stopping, of course, a clean install of 24.04.1. This is only for the upgrade. The article linked in the show notes does mention that the upgrade to 24.04 has caused issues in the past, so this isn't the first time we had the brakes put on. I mean, even when 2404 first came out, 23.10, people wanted to upgrade, but they're told not to because of critical bugs, which was unrelated to this one. But it's, a different issue, and they fixed that. Then everything went fine. So, bottom line, if you want to upgrade, you have to be patient and just wait for the issue to be fixed. They'll get things sorted out. They'll turn the upgrades back on. It's just they've edited the applicable release that you can upgrade from in one of the files. Of course, like I said, you can do a clean install, as I mentioned before, or, you can force the upgrade on the command line and take your chances. Now, I'm not going to give you directions on how to do that here, because if you're able to untangle a mess your system has, then you'll already know how to force the upgrade. So that's just academic is all I'm saying there. So, I should do some plugging for Ken and say that any upgrade changes a lot of files, and especially going from one LTS to another LTS. A couple of years allows a lot of changes, and the risk is there for something to go wrong. So as Ken says, back up, back up, back up. Make sure you always have some form of recovery for your important files. Take a look at the article in the show notes for more details, and I hope everyone, no matter what distribution you're on, has a happy and smooth upgrade path.
Yeah, it's odd for there to be such a problem with a point upgrade. That's just interesting. I've never.
It's a trend this year with the Ubuntu. It seems like, though.
It seems to only depends on what software you had pre-installed before you upgraded too.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Looking at some of the comments attached to the story, about half of them were saying they upgraded fine without issues so far, and the other half said they ran into a snag while trying to upgrade.
So if the problem is the upgrader and its interaction with apt solver, right? So like that's the software that maps out the different packages that someone has installed, tries to figure out all the dependencies. So like it's not that surprising that if that's what it is, then if you don't have the packages that are triggering the problem, that it's gonna install without issue. That's not terribly surprising.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's, a lot of people are jumping into Linux for the, pretty new or first time, or they don't want to, an issue that maybe, you could solve right away. Mm-hmm. Somebody else is not going to know how to, they're going to go, I just push the button and now it doesn't work.
Build a new computer and just put a brand new install on it.
I mean,
wipe and reload every point release.
Yeah.
Isn't that what the rolling releases do?
There's no wipes. There's no wipes.
Yeah.
So, personally, after a few upgrades, I do like to just do a fresh kind of wipe and just to kind of clean out old cruft, because I have seen things
after you
change.
backed up that old cruft.
Oh, yes.
That way, there's probably one data file you don't realize you needed for something.
All my data files are on my NAS. I have nothing on my computer. I could just wipe it and blow it up today. It doesn't matter.
A lot of times what I'll do is, now I do like KDE, but I'll go in the KDE directories, the specific system ones, underscore them .old or backup, .backup or whatever, rename them so they're still there in case I need something. Mm-hmm. And then I just reinstall everything outside of my home directory, because I have my root directory on a different partition. My home and root are separate. Wipe out the root, then get the configuration files in my home directory renamed, so it's kind of like a fresh wiped install. But I'm like Rob, I've got it stuff backed up, so if I did wipe out my home partition, it's more of just okay, now I got to download stuff, or I got to transfer stuff over, and like I'll re-download Steam games and stuff like that. There's nothing critical that I would lose. But I have seen in the past where if you don't do that, it's some of the deprecated settings will stick, and if you reinstall, things will change, and your desktop will look a little different because it's not taking into account some of those old settings that are kind of still hidden in the background yet functioning.
Mm-hmm. If it isn't backed up, it doesn't exist. And the rule of backup is 1 is none, 2 is 1, and 3 is a backup.
Pretty much.
Hey, stop stealing my poetry corner.
And then periodically try that backup.
Yeah, that's true. You got to.
Yeah.
So I found a Reddit thread where people are talking about this, and several people say that they went to do the upgrade. So it's from 2204 to 2404. Several people tried to do that upgrade and it ended up with a non-booting system. Had to boot off a CD. And one guy says he ran apt. Where did it go? Basically, the apt fix command and the apt dist upgrade like multiple times together before it finally would get him a bootable system again. So whatever it's doing, it's really trashing people's installs. So here, apt fix broken install. That's what he had.
Apt fixed Ubuntu.
Apt fix broken. And yeah, so not fun. I've had to try to fix a computer. I've had to try to fix my machine after doing something like that before, and it's no fun. It's really not.
Keep that Ventory disk handy.
Yeah, it's a real lifesaver.
I did totally rebuild a system that somebody else had really mucked up. They wound up trying to uninstall Perl, which had all sorts of system dependencies, and it was more just of a challenge. Could I do it? Mm-hmm. I got it unstuck, but it took a while. But it was kind of realistically a better waste or use of time would have been, wipe it and start over. But it was a challenge.
Yep.
Why climb the mountain? Because it was there.
We've talked about some of the tools to do that sort of thing in the past too, like chroot into it from a boot drive and some other things like that. What about, Rob, if it's from an ARM machine? What kind of options do you have there?
I don't know, pretty much the same options, but ARM VM ARM VM and compatibility layers. So a couple of stories this week show the strength and focus the community has had on ARM. For starters, Wine 9.7, the Windows compatibility layer that allows support to run Windows apps on Linux, was released this week with improved ARM64 CPU detection. And there is a list of the ARM architectures that are detected. I'm not going to list them out because they're just, well, unless you know specifically these ARM architectures, they just sound like nonsense. So anyway, another non-ARM feature that is pretty exciting is window surface scaling for high DPI displays. So modern displays technology, that's something that is always pretty exciting when it comes to Linux. I know, not in this, but I know Jonathan really likes his HDR.
Yes.
Other than that, it's a bunch of bug fixes. As they work their way to the big Wine 10, which is expected in early 2025. Also in the news this week, I know by now you people know how much I love VMs and how much I love to use the built-in KVM QEMU in Linux. No point in installing some other third party when you have it right there. So this week, QEMU 9.1. So all these virtual compatibility layers, they're all in the 9. So QEMU 9.1 emulation and virtualization software was released this week with improved support for ARM by adding another good list of ARM architectures. Also in this release is support for another CPU architecture that we really love to talk about. There is about 8 more RISC-V extensions now in QEMU 9.1. Other than these architecture improvements, QEMU 9.1 also brings a lot of other nice little improvements here, there, and everywhere else. Bug fixes. So with all that, ARM has been, it's been a thing for a while, but really it's always kind of lacked the power. And, we've talked about it lately. And I think with the Apple Silicon and the new X Elite, it's really shaping up to having the potential of a great ARM future. Even myself, a little tangent, not Linux yet exactly, but even at work, I got a new MacBook Air M3 this week. And the thing is literally like the fastest, coolest, quietest, most portable laptop I've ever used. And I would love so much to have Linux running on that thing, but unfortunately it is a work laptop and I would get in trouble if I did that. So I'll have to get donations so I could buy one and install Linux on them myself someday. But these ARM things, they're just light and cool. And I'm just tired of old laptops being hot and fans going off like crazy. I did have my Pinebook, which I still have sitting right next to me. My Pinebook, which is actually about the same weight as the M3 MacBook Air. Strangely, I just open up that Pinebook and there's like nothing inside of there. So I don't know what the inside of that MacBook looks like. But either way, unfortunately, that Pinebook is too slow because that's like, I don't know, 4 years ago now.
It's been around. And it wasn't exactly cutting edge hardware when it first came out either.
It wasn't. $125. It's not even the Pro.
Yeah.
It's just the first Pinebook. So $120, I think it was.
Yeah. Have you tried yet, Rob, doing emulation, like full on QEMU on ARM? Have you done that like on a Raspberry Pi?
I haven't used any emulation on my Pi yet, but
I think it's possible. With like a Pi 5 and an NVMe hat, that probably wouldn't be a terrible experience.
Yeah. Let's try that.
Yeah.
When you say on a Raspberry Pi, are you talking as a host or as the guest OS?
As a host, actually using the Pi hardware for the host.
Yeah.
I run Docker on ARM, but I've never actually run a virtual machine there.
Well, maybe I can suggest a distro that would let you.
Oh? What distro was that?
Would you believe it is Rhino distro?
Oh, I'm interested.
Now, according to Swarev Rudra and Bobby Borisov, the Rhino Linux team announced the release of Rhino Linux 2024.2 this week. It brings many new features, enhancements, and community-driven changes. In fact, while I'm going over some of these changes, I'm going to give you a little demonstration here. Let's see. lost my train of thought here. Sora reports Rhino Linux is one of the best rolling release distros out there. It is an Ubuntu-based distribution that's been regularly updated since its first release, providing an in-house modified XFCE desktop environment called Unicom Desktop. In addition, it offers a Rhino package tool that allows you to search, install, remove, and update packages from multiple sources, such as the native deb repos, Packstall, that's the Arch user repository for Ubuntu, FlatHub, and SnapStore. According to Bobby, the updated Unicorn theme is one of the most eye-catching changes in the new release, as you can see in my background here. Mm-hmm. It departs from the previous Yaru purple scheme by adding a deeper purple tint and greater visual integration across applications like Thunar and XFCE4 terminal. He also reports the setup wizard has been overhauled to offer an array of containerization options, including Docker, Podman, and DistroBox for both Novus and Power users. In fact, let me give you a brief slideshow here. Okay. There's some of the containerization options, as I mentioned, Docker, Podman, DistroBox, Apptainer, QEMU, Rob, and even VirtualBox. Mm-hmm. And then you've got some extra settings where you can choose Nala. You may remember, if you've been a long time ULS listener, when I first covered Nala as a alternative to using app from the terminal. You've also got the GitHub on the command line, A-port, that's our crash reporting system, as well as the ability to redshift or adjust the color temperature of your screen. Now, Bobby also reports the setup wizard has been overhauled to offer an array of containerization options and the addition of Nix as a package manager, and like I just mentioned, Redshift to adjust screen color temperature tailors to a more personalized user environment. As I mentioned, it does have Packstall, an integral component of Rhino Linux. It has seen two major updates. The recent versions introduced package base splitting, allowing multiple packages to be built from a single script, and new commands for enhanced package searching capabilities. Sarov starts the updated Linux kernels on the 3 Rhino Linux variants with Linux 6.10.7 for the generic ISO. That's what I've got in my VM that I've got running. Right. Let me switch back to it.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Right here.
Oh, that is live. Haha. And here I thought that was just a screenshot.
No, the other one was screenshots that I caught from when I went through the setup.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it twice or try to do it again live.
Yeah. Makes sense. There's some cool stuff in here.
Yes.
I also see that they've got the NVIDIA drivers just ready to go. You just have to run their packager tool to install them, and that'll get those going. Something else that surprised me is they have a Pine 64 version of this.
Yes,
right?
It's got Linux 6.9.0-OK Pine as the kernel for that Pine 64 images.
That is refreshingly new and not ancient.
Wow. There you go, Rob.
And then for Raspberry Pi images, you've got Linux 6.8.0-Raspi.
Mm-hmm. So pulling the official kernel for both of those.
I do need to, well, first I need to find the power cable for this Pinebook. And then I do need to fix the OS because I broke it, and I could install this.
Sounds like maybe you ought to throw Rhino on there. It sounds pretty cool for that.
VS Codium pre-installed.
Oh, cool. Not the Microsoft version, the uncooked version of VS Code. So
I feel like that might run pretty slow on my Pinebook.
It might. Do you remember how much the RAM is on that Pinebook? How much it's got?
No, but I remember things being slow. I can't even remember. I think it had Ubuntu, or I mean, Alex, whatever that desktop, LXQ.
Yeah.
I think it had that, and I put XFCE, and it was faster.
Mm-hmm.
But some things didn't work right. But yeah, it was slow.
Yeah.
Web browsing and not a whole lot more. Command line. Well, great for command line.
Sounds like this is a good story for next week. Install it and give us a report and
see if it works better.
Yeah.
Well, I need to see if I could find the power cable and then figure out how you install stuff on here. I don't know if you boot into USB or what you do.
Yeah, that's true.
I opened it up. I had it open a little bit ago, and I couldn't even figure out where the drive was in it.
It may have soldered on.
Yeah, apparently.
But you might also be interested to know that they've revamped the documentation that the Rhino Linux developers built using Nextra, which is a Next.js framework for creating content-focused websites. And the Linux developers ensured that all of the content from the old wiki was carried over, with them also integrating Packstall's wiki for a one-stop experience.
Cool.
I do recommend looking at both articles since they include links to the release announcement, Rhino's new wiki, and for downloading. Rob, you'll definitely need the download link.
Yeah, if you get it installed, let us know how it goes. I am, yes, Jeff.
Oh, I'll say if it's still the same thing, looking up the Pinebook 64, it's got 2 gigabytes LPDDR3 RAM.
Sounds right.
LPDDR3. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's been a few days.
My VM was using 4 gigabytes.
Yeah, it's a bootable micro SD slot.
That makes sense.
So you might have to put it on an SD card to get it to boot, to install.
That's going to be... NVMEs are better. You'll just say that NVMEs are better than micro SD. That's been my experience. They're better.
I mean, there's some kind of storage inside too, but...
Yeah, it says 16 gigabytes of eMMC, which is upgradable.
Some onboard flash.
But, Jeff, I think I need to upgrade the Firefox in that VM, don't I?
You do?
There it is.
Well, did you want to handle the handoff, Jonathan, or you want...
No, you got it.
We'll just take it. All right.
The hand has been offed.
We're running on auto here. We got upgrades. So I think everybody knows by now that I'm a big Firefox fan. And while I do use Chrome and Edge at work because I have to, corporate lockdown and whatnot, at home I choose Firefox. I do have Chrome here at home whenever I have to do something that maybe doesn't work in Firefox, but it's pretty rare that I do, and it's usually something very Google-ish that I might need Chrome. And while it's not the biggest browser by a long shot, it's still getting update love. So, for example, release 130 has just been set free. Features include having a full page of text that's been translated. You can then highlight a section of that page and have it translated into a different language. The overscroll animations are enabled as default behavior for scrollable areas on Linux, and a new Firefox lab page in settings to make it even easier to try experimental features in Firefox. Now, we have covered Firefox labs in the past, and it's where you can use the stable Firefox release and turn on new experimental features to help beta test things that are coming out in future releases and squash bugs before the feature's turned on before it's released into stable. For example, currently in labs, they have an AI chatbot and auto open on tab switch feature for picture-in-picture, and there's several other features you can play with. So just some taste of the goodies that's in there. With the built-in translation ability, there are new languages supported. Croatian, Czech, Danish, Indonesian, Romanian, and Vietnamese, just to name a few of the new supported languages. There's many more. See the link in the show notes for the full list of supported languages. There are, of course, several bugs squashed, and things like copy and paste have improved to better work as expected. So, and 130 is a release, and you might have access to it already, as I know I have. I'm running it right now, and I just have it updated through normal distribution channels. So your distribution might already have it, or if you don't have it yet, it's probably coming very quickly. Now, while 130 is out, we're looking forward to 131, which is being worked on right now. So Firefox is doing smaller, more frequent releases so we can see features and they can make changes much quicker. So that's why if you're thinking, wow, Firefox is always releasing something, well, that's why. They're trying to be more adaptive, and we don't have to wait so long for those changes and fixes, and they also get quicker feedback to the developers. So for 131, translation gets more love, and it will also now remember languages you've used in the past. So when it suggests a translation, you should have the languages you used last right at the top of the search, so you don't have to scroll through a bunch of stuff. It will also temporarily now remember when giving a permission to a website, such as when you let a site know your location. The Firefox team says that these are temporary permissions and will be removed when you close a tab or after 1 hour if the tab remains open. For those forming the question in their mind, I'm sure there's a way to also make the permission permanent if you need it for a specific site. There are updates for web developers and SVG2 support, and I will leave those updates to the exercise for the listener or viewer at the link in the show notes. Now, something I did want to cover is the beta cookie banner blocker feature is present. I say that 3 times fast. Now, this tells Firefox to automatically block cookie banners. This has been present in the past, but Marius Nestor over at 9to5Linux isn't so sure it's going to wind up in the final release version. He's hoping it will be, and it's just my speculation, but it seems some of the cookie blocking issues relate more to politics than technical issues. And now that's just my opinion from what I've gathered around the web. So take that with a big grain of salt. 131 also does fix some crashing that's seen on Wayland with the 610 kernel and NVIDIA GPU driver 560. Now, I'm not on Wayland yet, and Marius is, and he said he's not had any issues, so this might not be very widespread. So, but if you have had crashing, 131 should take care of that. Take a look at the article in the show notes, and if you want to try out the 131 beta, there is a link to the Mozilla website page where you can download it for your platform and hardware and give it a shot. You know, as always, keep in mind betas might crash, so no testing in production. Happy surfing.
The cookie banner blocker is real intriguing. I'm assuming that is intended to the various sites where you first visit them and they're like, this site uses cookies, please click here to accept. It just makes those go away, which
First visit, some do that over and over again. I want that feature.
yeah, I kind of want it too.
And I think they found that a lot of times it doesn't even matter what you click. The website's still doing what it's doing. I saw an article that was like, I can't remember now, it was like 30% or 50%, just like, no, I won't take the cookies. Yeah, whatever. It's still going to do whatever it wants to do. And
Yep. Well, so here's the secret. If you say no cookies, no thank you, and the next time you visit the site, the banner does not pop back up, it put cookies on your machine. That is how that works.
Firefox, Sword, Chrome, either one. If you don't want cookies, Control W when you get that banner.
I mean, I suppose.
You're
Just
not
close
going to be able to use the site, though.
Yeah. Although who's to say that they didn't put cookies on your machine before you close the tab? Oh,
I guess you got to use links as your browser, right? Isn't that the command line browser from?
Yeah, I don't think it has cookie support.
Yeah,
I don't think it does. So
no images, not much. You're not filling out forms, but
I have briefly searched the web with links before for various reasons when all you have is a console. When all you have is a console and you have to Google, how in the world do I fix this where all I have is a console? You Google it from links. Been there, done that a time or two. Back in the day before cell phones were quite as ubiquitous as they are now. Oh, all right. Let's get into some command line tips. And let's start with Rob, who has a cleaning tip.
Yes, BleachBit. So let me get that on the screen for those who are watching. But BleachBit is, for those of you who've maybe heard about this for a while, I'm a little behind the times apparently. But BleachBit is a cleaning tool to clean your system up. It's available on Windows and on Linux. It's a Python app. It's in repositories, so you can just do an apt install BleachBit. That's what I did here on my Cosmic Pop! OS desktop. And but also I read that a lot of those repositories are further out of date and recommending you should get the version from the site or from GitHub, because they'll update it, add more things to clean and stuff like that. So what BleachBit is, so here I have BleachBit open on Pop! OS here, and it's going to scan what you have on your system. So if if I didn't have Firefox, I don't think Firefox would show up here. If I had other things that it could clean that it's aware of, they would probably show up as well. So by default, nothing's checked, but you can go through and you can clean the apt, the auto clean, the auto remove clean package list. There's a deep scan that will do backup files and .ds stores and thumb.dbs, all the things for Firefox. And it's showing me here too, I think, because I previewed it, how much it's going to delete from each of these. Journal, clean, system, cache, clipboard, custom, broken desktop files, a bunch of stuff there, temporary files, of course. And now there are some things like you probably shouldn't just check everything like I almost did here, but because some things I haven't had it happen, but it's said you can pretty much break your system if you delete things you shouldn't be. And it will give you warnings on things like this Vim swap files across system. You check that. It's like, warning regarding deep scan, Vim swap files. This option is slow. That's what it says here, but I think there's other options. So let's go ahead and do it. So once you select everything you want, which in this case, I got everything here, you can do a preview. And there it's going to not actually delete anything, but it's going to go through and tell you everything it would have deleted. So you can, if you really want to look through, you can look through everything. But otherwise, you can, or if you don't care, if it's a system you don't mind breaking, which this one isn't, you can go down to the bottom and it tells you how much disk space is recovered, and 419 megabytes. And this is pretty much a fresh install of Pop! OS, the Cosmic version. So that seems like a lot of stuff to be deleted. I'm curious to try it. I don't have time to do this live on the show, but I'm going to hit go here and maybe it'll be done by the time I do my plug and we can see how much, what happens at the end. And I have used this on other systems. I believe there is a command line feature too. I've used it on Windows too to clean it up. Only fairly recently. It hasn't been too recent that I've just discovered this.
And if Rob is not at the end of the show, we know what happened.
This isn't actually my live system I'm running on. So.
Well, I think you should mention it's also saying it's what, 13,501 files it's going to delete?
Yes. 13,501 and 20 special operations, which I'm not quite sure what that means, but special's good, right?
Sometimes.
Caution to the wind.
Yeah.
Pedal to the floor.
Does it include the
I got
boot
permission
directory?
denied already.
No.
I guess I did. I must not have ran this as admin, and I don't have access to a lot of stuff. So, oops. Or
maybe for the
Do
best.
not run it as admin, by the way.
If you really want to clean up your system, you probably have to.
This reminds me very much of CCleaner and all of the registry cleaners on Windows from years gone by.
It's been compared to that. I watched a video on it recently after I've already been using it. But I was just kind of digging into it, trying to find out more. And according to the name sounds so familiar, Chris Titus, this is what the pros are using now instead of CC Cleaner. Don't use CC Cleaner. That's had malware in it. And,
Yeah, don't use CC Cleaner, not anymore.
and it's been bloated anyway always. So this is pretty minimal, not bloated, open source, and apparently it's what the pros use according to Chris Titus.
Cool. All right, Ken, what shall we do if we lose our file system? How do we find it?
Well, last week I showed you how to use FindFS to find your devices that are connected to your system, whether they're mounted or not. This week, I'm going to show you how you can find devices that are mounted. In fact, let me go ahead and take a moment here to bring up my command line. And the command I'm going to give you, as you can see, is FINDMNT. I pronounce it find mount. And just running it by itself will give you a lot of information. It finds every file system, whether it's a ext4, a sys file system, Fuse, CPL, TraceFS, temp file system, network status, SquashFS. Rob, you know what those are, don't you?
Yeah, I hate them.
It's a lot of the same information that running just mount will give you, but much prettier, much better presentation.
Especially since it does, by default, give you a header, giving you the target, the source, the file system type, and the options.
I like that it's in a tree view.
Yeah, tree is nice.
Yes.
Yeah, it does have that tree view. That is nice. Makes it easier to see what falls under what. Now, if you don't like the tree view, but you do prefer the format from DF, you can do it that way too, using the ~D. Now, it's nice to get this information because it's a lot of useful information that you can use, especially if you want to see the percentage. But sometimes you actually want to be able to just maybe limit that information. One way to do that is with the find mount -T. In this case, I'm going to use the T to show me the file system types that match ext4, which is all the devices that I have currently connected. And if you watched last week, you notice there's one that's missing because I don't have it hooked up yet.
We'll plug it in,
I'll go ahead and plug it in. And give it a minute for it to pop up and open up here. And there it is.
I was going to say, if it takes a full minute, you have a problem. It's not a good sign if a hard drive takes a full minute to pop up.
But it's still not showing it.
Because it's not mounted.
That's right. This will only show the devices that are actually mounted. So I have to mount it.
I see what you did there.
And it's
You were just playing dumb. Jonathan thought it was real.
now that it's mounted, you see it included in the list, but you can also go through and use it to verify your file systems. This is great if you've been editing your FS tab or file system table. And I'm running it as myself, so I'm getting a lot of permission denies.
Yeah. Sudo, make me a sandwich.
So, sudo, I'm only getting one. And Jonathan, can you tell me why it's giving me that non-bind mount source on /swap.image? Saying it is a directory or regular file?
Because it's a directory or regular file. In this case, it's a regular file.
That's used for my swap.
Mm-hmm. We playing Stump the Host today?
No. I'm just trying to get this interactive.
I gotcha. No, I am impressed with find mount. I will have to try to reprogram my fingers to run that command instead of just mount by itself, because that looks very useful.
Now,
Quick up. Oh,
there is another.
If you're not done.
That I want to show, and that's where you can a few other options you can add. -n, which gets rid of the header. --source, and here I'm telling it what the source is by using a label, and then I just tell it to give me an output of just the target. And this will work if it's in FS tab.
Gotcha.
Now, you notice something about all these targets? That's the actual one. And I'm going to go in here and add
Why? Ken, target and source can't be used together.
It's a comma separated list.
Aha.
Hmm.
Yeah, cool.
So, and you'll see here, I keep going too far off the screen, that this is the target directory, and the source device is the device-SDA5.
Mm-hmm.
And then for each one of these, it shows that in my FS tab, what I've done is I've done a bind to mounts for this directory, so it's showing up under this directory.
Mm-hmm. Bind mounts are cool. Very useful.
Especially if you don't want to have to keep repeatedly moving stuff off of one drive to another.
Yeah, you just put your big full directory in a bind mount and move it over once, be done with it. Yeah. Cool stuff.
And a couple of others here.
Let's save them for next week. Come back next week and give us the rest of them, because we are running long on time. Let's move to Jeff.
I have a quick update. Quick update, though. So when I first did that, it only deleted 300 and some files because it wasn't root. So I did it again, and it deleted everything, and it still seems to function.
He's not gone away. It is not broken. All right, Jeff, tell us about your Debian thing. What is this?
Deb post install. And deb post install is pretty much like it sounds. It's a simple bash script to take a new Debian or Ubuntu install and do some basic server stuff that a person would do post install of a fresh load. So it does the following. 1, it creates a new user with sudo privileges. 2, adds a public SSH key for secure access. 3, disables password authentication and root login for enhanced security. 4, setting up the uncomplicated firewall, UFW, to protect your server. 5, creates a swap file to optimize system performance. And 6, configuring the time zone and time synchronization for accurate timekeeping. Now, if you're not into servers or sounds like something you're not interested in, but maybe you're new to Linux, I think you should give a link in the show notes to see look at this link in the show notes to see the script. Not only does it show the script, but it goes through a step-by-step explanation of what's going on. If there's something you need to do, for example, and you just want to do one of the steps or two of the steps, it shows the command and what it's doing and explains what's going on. And it also shows you how to answer the questions the script will ask. So if you just run it, it'll give you some background on what you need to fill in. And after it runs, it'll also show you how to verify that things went as they should. So while the script might not be epic for those experienced users, I think it does a good job of showing some things that should be done, along with how to check the status of your system. The documentation around this, I think, is pretty good, and I think it's a good learning tool. So have fun setting up your new system.
Yeah. Very cool. All right, I've got a quick one. Now, mine is not a command line tip. I'm that guy this week. But I want to tell you about MQTT Explorer. And if you find yourself working with MQTT, which MQTT is an online data message bus, basically. You subscribe to topics, you publish bits of information to topics. It gets used oftentimes for things like Home Assistant. It runs on MQTT, and there's some other things that do. But it's a trivial message bus. One of the things that could be interesting about it is because there's so much data going around, because you have to figure out where it's at. A program like the Explorer, it lets you just subscribe to all of it, and then as the data comes in, it shows it to you, lets you virtualize it, and it actually looks like you could pull little bits of information out of it. And so MQTT Explorer will like make graphs out of your data, which is really cool. Some fun stuff here. In fact, it looks like they've added things to it since the last time that I used it, because this stuff was not there before. So neat stuff. And if you find yourself working with MQTT, the Explorer is maybe the place to go to. All right. It has been fun, guys. I will let each of you get in the last word. If you want to plug something, you can. And then we'll have you back next week. So, Rob.
Just my usual. Come connect with me. My website is robertpcampbell.com. And from there, you can find links to my LinkedIn, my Twitter, my Mastodon, a place to donate these coffees I keep talking about. It's only going to take, to get me that phone, it's only going to take 100 coffees about. So 100 coffees, and I can get that phone. And if you scroll, there's my resume there, and a cool quote at the bottom of the website and stuff like that. So come and find me, connect, say hi on LinkedIn, Mastodon, or Twitter, and
cool.
Hope to see you there.
Yeah. All right, Ken.
Well, come back for next time when I finish going through some other options for using FineMount.
Yeah, I look forward to it. That is a very cool looking little program.
There are a couple of options that I think you'll really like, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Like when it's not in the FS tab.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Looking forward to it. All right. And Jeff. Jeff is muted.
Oh, yeah. I pulled a Rob.
Yeah. So you robbed it up.
I did. Not much this week, so it's just Poetry Corner, server, poor response, not quick enough for browser, timeout, Plum Blossom. Have a great week.
Oh, all right. Excellent stuff. Thank you guys for being here. Things I want to plug. Well, first we got Hackaday. We got Floss Weekly and the security column that goes live there on Hackaday, and make sure and check those out. And then I've got a YouTube video that is in the ending notes, and it's something. So as many of you know, I've been doing work with Meshtastic, writing code for that, and I've done some videos about it. And one of the other community members decided to try to make a theme song and called out my beard on the theme song. And so go give that video some love. And just remember, it was all done in fun. So But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I promised him to give him a shout out. Other than that, we sure appreciate everybody being here and catching us, those that watch us live, those that get us on the download, and we will see everybody next week on the Untitled Linux Show. Hey folks, do you enjoy the show but wish you could have more TWiT in your life? Well, you should really think about Club TWiT then. For about the price of a cup of coffee per month, you can join the club. You get access to the exclusive Discord, access to shows, the ad-free versions of shows, and more. You should really think about it. Come join the club.